Thank you, Mr President. This is obviously a resumption of the earlier second read debate. I think I was in the process of informing the House of the relevant defects with this bill and what the opposition will be intending to do in a series of amendments in Committee of the Whole later on in the day. I did go over the two separate classifications that the government is attempting to put in the bill, which the opposition will not be opposed to, but it's very important, Mr Deputy President, that when we're doing that, that the people who will be ultimately involved in the testing, commissioning and certification of the gas installation will not be able to do maintenance and service. That should be the domain of a qualified hands-on tradesperson with the relevant experience. So our amendments will go to that. Those amendments will also make sure that we recognise the high skill level of that classification. These are quite complex tests which have to occur in accordance with the relevant Australian standard, 2896 in fact, and those people will be invariably professionally, perhaps degree qualified or at least Cert 4 qualified people with the relevant medical competency. But again, we don't want those people to be doing maintenance and servicing on an installation which other people, qualified tradespeople, have installed. The analogy I used before the break was that you wouldn't get an electrician to finish off your electrical installation in your house or a plumber to do the same and then expect someone else to come along and do the maintenance. Part and parcel of the same thing as how the industry operates. So our amendments will go to that. I did outline to the House that there are exclusionary provisions in the government's bill to exclude premises like aged care and veterinary surgeons, which the opposition would be opposing and moving amendments accordingly. One of the adverse consequences of amending the Gas and Electricity Act and doing this as a creature of the Gas and Electricity Act is that some of the investigative powers associated with the amendments and the associated reporting requirements have unintended or could have unintended consequences on other trades, so that there are provisions in there for police to accompany investigators during investigations, and also reporting requirements which unnecessarily impinge on those other trades. So we'll have amendments to deal with that. The other concern, which I do think I touched on prior to lunch, is that given that this is a new, in effect, a new profession, a new qualification, a new licensing system, you would normally leave the specification of the certification, the qualification, in a regulation. We do have a concern that if there's discretionary power to specify what's required in a regulation, then it may actually result in a much watered down system and in effect has the power to undo everything in the legislation. Trades like plumbing and electricity, which have had a long practical historical evolution over many years of trial and error, unfortunate accidents no doubt have caused revisions in the way that the regulation surrounding those trades, particularly with certification, qualification, has grown up. This is a brand new trade, Mr President, and we think that the qualifications should be spelt out in the legislation. And those qualifications are Certificate 3 training, which is the trade training you get when you do electrical work or plumbing work. The same will apply to the gas fitting work. And in the case of the medical technician, which is that class of person that comes along and does the testing commission, at least Cert 3 or equivalent, and relevant practical experience as well. So, look, in a nutshell, to summarise the issues that Labor has with the current bill, It doesn't deal adequately with the realities of the industry, which is that you have mechanical services, which is the skill set that medical gas most appropriately fits under. That mechanical services skill set and trade is not licensed. Therefore, the lack of a licensing system doesn't mean that there's a vocational training and education system provided. In other words, if I want to go and do mechanical services at Tech, I can't do it because the course isn't actually on offered because there's no licensing system. That means that we're not taking advantage of a whole kindred skill set that would efficiently and skillfully do medical gas. Labor's amendment will fix that. There's the two-tiered system of the technicians, which I pointed out. There's the lack of specification of qualification. There's the exemption of certain installations. And there's the unintended consequences of some of the investigation and reporting provisions as a byproduct of amending the Gas and Electricity Act. And there's also some tightening up that needs to be done. So whilst we have been talking to the government and there has been some movement, we are still a little bit apart. I suspect we'll be going into Committee of the Whole and testing some of these arguments on the floor of Parliament, Mr. President. So with those comments, I look forward to debating those points on their merit. Thank you.